Hello and welcome to the Systems and Engineering Graduation Program for the 2018-2019 class. I'm Molly Bannon from the Johnson Space Center, and I'm here to tell you about our extraordinary, life-changing year and a half together in only 5 minutes, so wish me luck. For those less familiar with the program, SELP contains 3 components that produce system engineering leaders with agency-wide perspectives. These are leadership development workshops, center and industry benchmarks, and a 9-month technical detail at another NASA center. Before we get into all that though, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about our group. Most of us met each other on June 21st, 2018 at our interviews. Some of us had lunch together that day and even toured the National Mall together. Even at our interviews, you could see the sparks of friendship form as we started building our cross-agency network. Now I'd like you to step back with me to August of 2018 and those individuals showing up at the Stennis Space Center for a week-long orientation. These are 11 people from 6 different centers, 8 men and 3 women. We are single people, married people, just married people, and soon to be married people. We are GS 13s, 14s, and 15s. We are people without kids, people with kids, and people who are finally free from their kids. We walked in and we weren't quite sure what we had gotten ourselves into. I think many of us were pretty taken aback by how deeply personal the leadership workshops were. But within the space of the first few hours, we had shared our life stories with one another, and you could see us coalescing into a cohort. Fast forward a year, and from salsa dancing in hotel lobbies, to competing in the NASA Moves campaign together, to magic castles in LA, and karaoke in dive bars right here in Cocoa Beach. These are my people. Kent really carried our NASA Moves campaign because he was training for an Ironman. That helped a lot. And don't go after Erick Tapio in karaoke. He's just too good at it. At our leadership workshops, we looked at tools and skills from communication to change management to personality type. We looked at Myers-Briggs, the life cycle model, the importance of alignment and storytelling, strengths finders, as well as crucial conversations. I think crucial conversations was used almost immediately by everybody with teenage kids. During these workshops, we benchmarked 7 NASA centers, as well as aerospace companies and outside industries. We met with senior leadership, saw facilities, projects, and capabilities. We distilled these leadership lessons down into what we could apply in our own leadership. For instance, at Google X, we heard how one of their leaders started her career at Pampers Diapers, and she connected meaningfully to her work by starting a program where a portion of the profits went towards eliminating tetanus in Africa. We walked the battlefields of Gettysburg and saw how leveraging new technology at the right moment can sway a battle, as well as how leveraging old technology, in this case bayonets, can also change history. Not only did these workshops stretch us and grow us, but they also deepened our relationships. We had dinner at each other's houses and met each other's families. Some of what knit us so closely together were the trials, struggles, and triumphs during our 9-month technical details at another NASA center. We were pulled out of our comfort zone to a new center to take on a stretch assignment. We came from 6 different centers and went to 6 different centers. Cameron, for instance, from Goddard went all the way to Ames, coast to coast and back for his detail. That's a long road trip. In 9 months, we were able to provide valuable contributions in our assignments, increase our system engineering skills, as well as understand the culture of the center that we were at. And we often reached out to each other, not just about work issues, but also on the personal side. Over this year and a half, we experienced the ups and downs that only life can bring. I got married, but another's wife was diagnosed with cancer. And a third is now having a baby. These dynamics brought us closer together and cemented our lifelong friendships. And when many of us went back to our home centers, we immediately stepped into expanded roles with new responsibilities. To wrap up, let me tell you a little bit about this picture behind me and what it represents. This is commonly referred to as the Elephant Trunk Nebula, which is a site for star formation about 2,400 light years from Earth. And this program has formed us into star leaders for NASA. Not only that, but it's changed and broadened our viewpoint. In zooming out and looking at this from a different angle, as was just shown, many people see a person holding a torch. None of us can go back to looking at our roles, our center, our agency the same way again. This program has set up the rest of our lives. We've picked up our torches and are ready to light the way forward for this agency. For the next portion of the program, each of us will tell you what our individual torch is, starting with Erick.
I want to introduce to you one of the greatest system engineers of football I've ever met, Coach Ed Riffiato. He took 65 engineers of football together to win a conference championship, the first one in 13 years, and they've never done it since. He left off the next year to another bigger university for his accomplishments. My name is Erick Ordonez. I'm from Marshall Space Flight Center, and my passion is open center team collaboration. Now, I know what you're thinking. Open centers, we do that now. But not in the way you think I'm talking about. I'm more about open borders discipline engineers. Let me bring this picture back into light. 65 players from all over the country. Florida, California, Maine, Michigan. And each one was a lead. The offense wasn't developed in California. The defense wasn't developed in Florida. The special teams wasn't developed in Texas. No, each individual came to New Mexico and gave their expertise. NASA's our team. And our conference, all right, is industry in the world. NASA has the benefit of having 10 centers across the agency with expertise that's top in the world. We should leverage that. Right now, we as an agency need to focus and bring this together. I'm sure there's lots of engineers in New Orleans, at MAF, or at Stennis that would love to be able to work on complicated flight projects, but just can't do it. I'm giving this a call to y'all. Let's work together. In 5 years, all right, if we come together, we could be winning championships. In 10 years, we could have a dynasty like Roll Tide, Alabama, where we're just not winning championships, we're leading and people are trying to mimic what NASA's doing. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Kennedy Space Center. My name is Jamie Willhite. This beautiful lady in this picture is my wife, Leslie Willhite. And she loves to tell the story of how we came to the Edwards Air Force Base Air Show in 1987, took our two sons out there to hear Chuck Yeager break the sound barrier, commemorating the 40th anniversary of supersonic flight. We had parked up at the north end of the lake bed at Edwards next to the Dryden Flight Research Center. And as we were leaving that day, I pointed to the NASA symbol up on one of the buildings and I said, someday I'm going to work here. To which my wife replied, set the intention and make it happen. And so I did, and together we did. Why did I want to work at NASA? As a young kid, I had a passion to learn how to fly, and I was inspired watching the NASA Apollo program on my TV set, watching every launch and every mission. In 1969, I sat in my aunt and uncle's living room with my extended family and watched as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin stepped on the moon, landed on the moon for the first time. The Eagle had landed. And we waited for what seemed like an eternity for Neil to finally come out of the lunar lander and step on the moon. One small step for man, one giant leap for all mankind. We had done it. NASA and America had landed on the moon. We had achieved the greatest technological feat in human history. After only 6 missions, the NASA Apollo program was canceled. We had established a foothold on the moon, but we let it slip away, and we lost it. I came to the Johnson Space Center from Armstrong Flight Research Center to perform my SELP detail. I came to fulfill a lifelong goal to work on a human space program, but more importantly, to fulfill and support my vision for NASA. My vision for NASA and for America is to lead a peaceful, collaborative effort to return humans to the moon and establish a sustainable, permanent presence on the moon and in outer space. NASA and America need to do this. We need to continue to be technological leaders for the free world, and we need to continue to inspire the next generation of scientists, engineers, and astronauts. I challenge all of us as leaders for NASA to remain focused and stay the course so that we can achieve this great technological feat. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Erick Tapio. I'm from NASA Ames Research Center. My core value is enabling discovery. While growing up, I was a quiet and very observant kid. I watched everything, people, processes, even the weather. And I have to say, I would create mental models of what must be going on. And I have to say that I think I got them nearly all wrong. But then I found natural sciences, and it was amazing. It had all of the answers. It was like magic. Through diligent application of scientific principles, the world could be revealed and understood. One day, as an undergraduate student, my life was changed by seeing images that were coming back from the Hubble telescope, like this one. This image, stitched together using 800 exposures, showed nearly 10,000 galaxies in various phases of evolution, all in the area this big in the night sky. I was blown away by the capacity, the ability of scientific instruments. In fact, it was the impact from Hubble that was one of the many reasons that brought me to NASA. And why NASA? Because at NASA, we do big things. We do things that just aren't dared elsewhere. From being a student majoring in physics, I learned what it takes to do good science. You have to have a strong technical background to build an instrument, incredible perseverance, and a brilliant team to back you up along the way. Today, my core value is the same desire that motivates me as a systems engineer. The world of systems engineering is the arena in which we as systems engineers are able to create the technology to make the breakthroughs. My vision for NASA is that it remains the leading organization driving daring vision and enabling deep space exploration. With the recent discovery of Earth-sized exoplanets in a habitable zone, my call to action is that we as an agency move forward with a coherent, collaborative effort to build the systems that will enable the next profound breakthrough, the discovery of life outside our solar system. And in closing, for those that may be wondering, the green alpaca is not an intergalactic species, but my daughter's plushy seaweed who has traveled with us through all of the SELP workshops. My family is very much a part of my leadership journey, and seaweed represents for me my connection with my family and my daughter, who has helped me through both this program and all that I do. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Ruhl. I'm from the Johnson Space Center, and my passion is building strong teams. And I brought this picture because I wanted to share an experience I had coaching my son's t-ball team. And I decided to do something totally radical and have each player play each position rotated through the entire game. And people said, that's crazy. You got to have strategy. You got to put the key players in the key positions. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. There are 5. And I want them to know that they have to work hard because the team is going to be counting on them. But we lost a lot of games. But then we started winning and we became the champions. We were the champions several seasons in a row. And NASA's teams have radically changed. We're now comprised of international partners, commercial partners. Multiple programs make up the Artemis program, and we have to learn to break down the barriers between all these different programs and our commercial partners and work together. We can't just write requirements and throw them over the fence and think everything's going to come back, they're single elements, and it's all going to fit together when we're constantly changing what we're doing. We have to communicate. In T-ball, the coach is not allowed on the field. The kids can't go running up and saying, hey, coach, who should catch this fly ball? They have to communicate and make an on-the-spot decision. And if NASA can't get our teams to communicate with each other, we're going to drop the ball. What I try to do in my position at Gateway is build working groups of subject matter experts that can talk directly across programs with industry, with our international partners to solve problems. And I fight hard to make sure that they get the data they need to do their jobs. And I'm calling on you, no matter what area you're working in, if you're working in legal and you're doing contracts, put provisions in for sharing proprietary data. Write these contracts so that there's provisions for working the integrated level 2 system, not just what you're doing in your industry. If you're a manager, pull all the stakeholders together at the lowest levels to solve the problem. And if you're an engineer, be flexible. They may not do it like us, but it doesn't mean they're doing it wrong. You need to interpret your requirements and the intent of your requirements. I would like to see the first man and woman walking on Mars in my lifetime. And if we're going to accomplish that, it's going to take the whole world under NASA's leadership as one team together. Thank you.
So my name is Chris Miller. I'm from NASA Armstrong, and as we walked through this program, my life has undergone some pretty profound changes. When we started, I was a newlywed, and when we came back from my detail, we were expecting our daughter in April. And so as I ponder what my hopes and my dreams are for my wife and my unborn daughter, it's caused me to think more deeply and look for purpose in ways that I've really never done before. And that includes my job, right? And the nice thing is that's actually caused me to fall that much more in love with what we do at NASA. Our mission is forged in the belief that as we build bigger and we explore farther, that somehow we're drawn closer together in our basic humanity. And as part of this program, like I've said, at my detail at Glenn, as well as the 7 centers that we were able to visit, I've been given a unique opportunity to see NASA in a much bigger picture, much bigger light. And one of the things that I've seen is that we've got some really, really smart, some really passionate people who know their mission and love what they do. Like at JSC, when we were there, like almost everybody connected what they do on a daily basis to the astronauts and the big, awesome things that they do in space, those research experiments. However, some places in the agency that we got to visit, that just wasn't the case. There was a culture that was separated from the mission, that people didn't connect their daily work to the bigger mission. And those places, they felt isolated, afraid, undervalued. And those were kind of the darkest days. Those were the hardest for me, personally. And so it was in those days that I resolved that my job as a NASA leader is to lead my teams and the people that I work with in such a way that they can connect intimately and personally with the big picture mission, the big things that we're trying to do at NASA. Big things like trying to land people on the moon again, reinvigorating the NASA or the aviation industry and reinventing it, exploring our solar system and understanding our world. Those are big things. But maybe even more importantly, I resolved to make decisions and set my priorities based on that mission. Because let's face it, as leaders, we have to make really hard decisions and we have to have some pretty hard conversations. But when we make those decisions and communicate through the lens of our shared mission, our shared vision for what we want out of this agency, it allows us to bring people along with us. They unite with us and then we go together as opposed to in division. So as leaders, I want to challenge you with 3 questions and ask yourself these 3 questions as often as you can. First, what is my mission? Does your mission resonate personally with you? Secondly, are you making decisions and setting priorities based on that mission? Third, are you helping your team to connect their day-to-day work with that mission? Because let's face it, NASA can do anything. We have the capability to do anything that we set our minds to. But without leaders that can communicate that mission with sincerity and passion, we risk falling short of our greatest hopes for this agency. Let's not fall short. Be the kinds of leaders that lead with intention and that bring people together in a way that honors our shared humanity and our mission for the agency. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cameron Jerry. I'm sending this message from the Goddard Space Flight Center. I'm excited to be celebrating with my fellow cohort, although in spirit, our graduation and an amazing year we had together. You may be curious about this image next to me. To you, this might be a simple picture of an empty subway car. But for me, as a kid growing up in New York City, I spent a lot of time riding the subway. In fact, I would often spend time sitting there imagining achieving the impossible. I can recall almost 25 years ago, a moment of inspiration while riding the train. I was 16 at the time, heading to school, and as the train was leaving the platform, I caught a glimpse of a billboard. And it had a slogan on it, and it said, "Help us solve today's problems for tomorrow's future." That slogan captured me. It captured my attention. As a kid, I loved solving problems, so I could relate to it. But in hindsight, I believe that slogan became a beacon for me. You see, at 16 years old, I had a lot of goals and aspirations, but a mountain of obstacles to overcome in order to achieve them. My mother, who was raising 5 kids on her own, we didn't have much, and the idea of me going to college seemed like an impossibility. However, with my own persistence, help from family and mentors, and partnership with the community, I was able to graduate from college, not just one, but 2 engineering degrees. Fast forward, here I am at NASA, working for an agency whose mission is to help solve today's problems for the world and for humanity. I was very fortunate to spend time at Ames as part of my detail, helping the CubeSat mission figure out how to reprogram satellites to fly like a flock of birds in orbit in formation fashion. I'm here at Goddard serving in my new role as MSc, helping to define new concepts and designs to support future lunar and Venus missions. All that I have accomplished so far here at NASA would not be possible if that 16-year-old kid did not make a key leadership choice to pursue the hard thing despite of the obstacles. You know, when I reflect on the agency and think about all the challenges we have to face going forward, I think there's a few things we can learn from the journey of that 16-year-old kid. One, as leaders, we have to be willing to take risk in order to accomplish big things. We cannot always play it safe. At 16, I realized that I could not allow the fear of the risk to impact the pursuit of something greater. Two, we cannot underestimate the power of alliances. You know, some of the greatest missions and goals have been accomplished through the spirit of relentless collaboration. You know, as a 16-year-old kid, I had to drive and I had to resolve. But building partnership with the community was key to my success. I believe in NASA, we will go further and faster as we continue to build alliances and partnerships. In closing, I want to remind all of us the importance of being a beacon for our workforce and how important it is for us to inspire each other, especially our emerging leaders. Calling them to the same challenge presented to the 16-year-old kid 25 years ago on that billboard. And that same kid who responded to that call with a tremendous amount of courage and resilience is a constant reminder to me as a leader that collectively we can overcome the toughest challenges, we can solve the toughest problems to achieve the impossible. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephen Hunter, and I'm a proud member of the NASA family representing the Johnson Space Center. I've chosen the picture of the Apollo 11 footprint of the moon because it's a defining moment in history, not only for the agency, but for the world. As individuals, we have moments which define or set our compass and direct the rest of our lives. My core values are purpose and accountability. These values were instilled in me through one of those life moments. I said, while in college, I became the victim of a violent crime. I was shot by an unidentified gunman. Okay. In those moments where I heard the gunshots, shot one, shot two, I was eventually struck by bullet number 3 as I was diving down to the ground. As I dove down to the ground, I saw bullets 4 and 5 ricochet before me. And in that moment, I became re-energized with the sole purpose of trying to survive that moment. In surviving, my life immediately became and had purpose. And that purpose for me was to make sure that I made a difference with my life, both personally and professionally. My participation in the SELDP, or SELP, as it's now called, has allowed me to see what the agency can do, but more importantly, what the agency is able to do. Our agency is currently at a crossroads. I said more than 50% of our current workforce is retirement eligible. As our agency transitions into the development of the new space economy, I'm challenging not only myself, but all other leaders within the agency to reinvest in our most important assets, its people. I love NASA because it's given me the opportunity to not only seek new purpose, seek growth, but to be accountable for the success and missions that I support. My goal is to create a reinvigorated, energized, and mobilized workforce through the implementation of a onboarding and mentoring program for all levels of employees at NASA, whether they're fresh out or seasoned veterans. My vision for the agency is to create a culture or recreate a culture within 3 years that encourages all employees to have a sense of purpose and accountability to the missions that we support, to allow us to empower us to not only take small steps, but take giant leaps in the development of capabilities that will allow us to meet the missions that were defined by the agency, such as Artemis, or even the undefined, or the things that we just don't dream of or haven't created of, because we are the agency that will allow us to do the impossible possible. Okay? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Erick Eberly. I did my detail at Armstrong Flight Research Center. My home center is Marshall, but I'm actually on a detail at headquarters right now. I am zealous about breaking down barriers and achieving what was once thought impossible. This picture here, December 31st, 1983. It shows one of the worst days in my life. At the age of 13, the doctors told me that my broken leg was so severe that I may never walk normally again. So as we welcomed in the new year, I was contemplating what would be the new me. What made this challenge even more apparent was one day after school, I was left alone in the hallway with a stack of books and a set of crutches, with the task of getting to the parking lot where my mom was waiting to take me home. Right then, I decided that I was going to overcome this barrier. Breaking down barriers and achieving what was once thought impossible. That's one reason why I joined NASA. NASA does the impossible. I wanted to conceive great ideas that surpassed barriers to become great solutions for NASA's missions. So as we contemplate the future of NASA, we cannot let NASA become just a regulatory commission for the commercial industry. NASA needs to take on those risks that private entities cannot afford. We need to maintain, perhaps even regain, our position at the forefront of technology and science. We should hand off those proven tasks and operations to industry. NASA needs to be the high-tech defining, boundary broadening, science gaining part of our nation. I want to lead NASA back to that awe-inspiring national treasure. I'm ready to throw down all crutches and begin that journey. I encourage all of you to join me. Thank you.
Welcome to our engineer speed dating pilot project. I'm Kenneth Chriswell from Marshall Space Flight Center. My favorite color is crimson. I like long swims, long bike rides, and long runs called triathlons. Actually, I've trained more than I've raced these days, and I would like to thank SELP for the detail portion where I was able to focus on my training, where I completed my first ever half Ironman. So if you caught the Ohio, I did do my detail up in Glen, OHIO, right? So in fact, I still talk to the system engineer that I mentored up there, and frankly, I learned a lot from him. But this picture is not me and my Ironman. It was a picture from my race. I'm a race director at Marshall Space Flight Center for a race called Racing the Station. It's a duathlon. And that excited fist bump that you see is not because I'm running. It's actually because I'm excited about teaching people and connecting people to NASA's mission, its purpose. For the race packets, I even stuff NASA fact sheets in there and NASA stickers. I bring in exhibits for the racers while they're spectators. So I'm really excited about that. I even connect my family to NASA's discoveries. I have 2 future daughter engineers to prove it. So I really enjoy meeting people and connecting people to other people, connecting ideas for projects, for concepts to move them forward. I thrive off connecting people to the big picture. Now with the mundane realities of meetings that we have, the technical risk of the pounding out the small margin of a component of a part that fits into a subsystem that supports a system that goes to this element of an integrated vehicle, it's easy to lose sight of the forest because of all those trees. And those details matter. We can't lose sight of that. We have to remember the purpose. We have to stay connected. Now, I want everyone to remember that NASA is the leading organization for the global vision of space exploration and the integrator of this mission. So I encourage you, when you go back to your jobs, to keep your folks and your projects connected to the real purpose. Stay connected. Keep the mission, communication, that motivation and trust very high. So I'm ready to influence NASA's evolving role in space, the new space economy, and lead humankind into achieving things that we've only dreamed about. Thank you.
Again, my name is Molly Bannon, and I'm from the Johnson Space Center, and I am an identical twin. Meet Emma. Usually when people learn that, they express a little bit of jealousy, just how much they would have liked to be a twin. And for the long time, I didn't get it. Most people have brothers and sisters, and I thought it was about the same thing. Yeah, sure, Emma and I could play pranks on people, like convincing them we had ESP, but we also had to share everything, like a bedroom, clothes, friends, even a birthday. It wasn't until we started going our own ways in college that I started to get it. We were a dynamic duo from birth. We were a Mickey and Minnie, a Batman and Robin. We had a partnership, a deep relationship and connection. Having a twin sister taught me the value of deep, authentic, lasting relationships and partnerships. I want to build twins at NASA, pairings of organizations that trust each other, support each other, and are honest with each other. JSC recently hosted a panel of Apollo astronauts, Fred Hayes and Walt Cunningham, as well as Apollo 13 flight director Jerry Griffin. I asked them about collaboration and whether it enabled the success of Apollo. In talking about the development of Apollo, Fred Hayes described himself as, quote, living with the contractor. It doesn't get any closer than that. And Jerry Griffin described the relationships with the contractors and the other centers as great and were, quote, one of our secrets. Through SELP, I had the amazing opportunity to work on the Europa Clipper flight system engineering team at JPL. While there, I realized JPL had much stronger institutional support for system engineering and maintaining it as a discipline compared to JSC. To leverage that strength, I cultivated a relationship between the JPL and JSC architecture and mission planning groups. We held an exchange where a handful of us got together and talked about how we do things and ways we could be doing things better. We already have a follow-on workshop planned, and at JSC, I'm immediately implementing some of what I've learned. We've found a potential twin pairing. Now I want to enable others to do the same. Our generation faces the daunting challenge of not just getting back to the moon, but Artemis is about a sustained presence out there. To do that, we need a fundamentally new way to make connections. To facilitate others finding and making these connections, I want to create a tool that lattices our organizations together, that will show you your counterparts at the other NASA centers. With your support, this tool will enable us all to relentlessly collaborate outside our own centers. Together, we will meet the challenges of 21st century space exploration.
Hello, my name is Michelle Amos, and I'm from the Kennedy Space Center. When I was in college, the Summer Olympic Games were being held in Los Angeles, California. That summer, as I walked to class, I could see in the distance blue flashing lights. It was the police escort of the Olympic torch runner. As the runner approached me, I asked, "Mister, would you let me carry the torch?" He said yes and handed me the torch. I held it high with so much pride, knowing that with every step, I was contributing to its journey to the Los Angeles Games. I value excellence, just as the Olympics requires excellence to win the gold. And NASA optimizes system engineering excellence to achieve mission success. My vision is to establish a NASA Chief Engineers Mentoring Program, where Chief Engineers mentor systems engineers at their home centers, using a structure that works best for that center. Imagine being in the room where the chief engineers are discussing critical program risks, or the verification and the validation approach of a complex system, or how to balance cost and retain system integrity. As a first step, this development concept can be shared throughout the agency by including a system engineering career development chapter in the NASA Systems Engineering Handbook. Let's help develop systems engineers to lead large flagship missions by giving them the opportunity to learn from NASA legends at their home centers. I had the opportunity to learn from some of those NASA legends at the Jet Propulsion Lab. My SELP assignment was the Mars 2020 rover project, verification and validation. This photo shows the Mars 2020 spacecraft being prepared for environmental testing at the Jet Propulsion Lab. I was privileged to support two critical tests. First, cruise, entry, descent, and landing, and later, surface operations for the first 40 days on Mars. However, the highlight of this experience was meeting and working with the Mars 2020 team. Reflecting back on my vision, I'm willing to take leadership and to push this vision forward. I now pass the torch to you, and to you, and to you, to help create a NASA Chief Engineers Mentoring Program where chief engineers can mentor systems engineers today to lead for tomorrow.
Thank you.